Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this week's March Madness edition to the Jess Strom Show. I'm your host, Katie Tetzlaw, and we have a great show for everyone today, talking about all things Cal U women's basketball, the NCAA tournament, and take a look back at the PSAC tournament that the Vulcans participated in. We have a wonderful, wonderful guest with us today, junior guard Emily Suckling. First week on the show. How's everything going so far?
Going okay?
Yeah, good.
Yep.
Well, obviously you were in a very different position this year. Before we start going talk about that, first let's tell our viewers a little bit about yourself.
Well, I grew up in Australia. I'm a junior. I'm a guard on the team, and my major is sport management.
Fantastic. And as I said before, you had a very interesting path during this season. Came in ready to go for the season, but then weren't quite feeling so well. We know that you had surgery in October that kind of was a very, very long road to recovery.
Yeah.
And now just getting back into the swing of things here for the team. Can you tell us a little bit about that process, kind of where you were, how you progressed, and then kind of how you're feeling right now?
It was a long road. Had probably 3 months off. So it was a very long road for me, especially not being able to do any exercise or stuff like that. Had to kind of learn how to run again and do the basic stuff that a lot of people take for granted, like opening a door and even sleeping. But I think through the support of you guys and the teammates and trainers and stuff, I've definitely been able to come back and get stronger every day. And
Yeah, and we're seeing that too. Coming into the games, we're the leading scorer in the PSAC playoff game. And that's a role that has been very different. Obviously, you've had to slowly gain time from not being able to come in and having to kind of sit down a little bit, and which is always difficult. Can you tell us your thought process through that, how you've handled those situations and what you've learned from maybe watching a little bit more?
Well, I obviously knew that I was coming in with like 2 months being on the sideline, so I wasn't expecting to play straight away. But through that, I definitely learned a lot about the game and how we play, and like in our offenses and stuff, like what we want to look for and defense, all that kind of stuff. So I think it helped kind of gain my knowledge as well for basketball in general. But now, just have to be there ready to go.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've seen that, your progression and now your ability to come in and do some wonderful things and obviously play a ton of minutes in the Edinburgh game. Now, we talk about March Madness time. To me, that's why you play the game. What are your thoughts on, obviously we did not play a great PSAC playoff game at Edinburgh.
Mm-hmm.
Very disappointing in terms of the expectations of the Cal U women's basketball program. However, basketball gods were fortunate to us, received an NCAA tournament bid, have another chance to head to Richmond, Virginia, and play one of our big PSAC rivals in IUP. Thoughts on that?
Third time. It's going to be fun. Hopefully we can get the win. We know what we need to do. We know what we did wrong last time, so just need to go out there with the game plan in our minds and do it.
Now, we always talk about your personality,
Okay.
You don't get too excited about anything. You're pretty even-keeled in terms of just life in general, ups and downs, kind of basically the same. Do you get a little bit excited for March Madness time? Does it really kind of get you going? Like, does it do anything different to you?
Obviously, that's what you kind of grow up to do. You grow up to be in this situation and play on this stage, so yeah.
You get excited about it?
Yeah.
Well, that's good to know. Because, it was your birthday last week, and no one really even know because you didn't really discuss or talk about it. I know when it's my birthday, I'm telling everybody about 2.5 months in advance to make sure that there's preparation. But you kind of just, even keeled about things. How do you think you develop that personality? Like, where do you think your evenness comes from and just kind of your ability to kind of stay real even keeled from high highs and low lows?
I think I've just been through a lot in my life. That sounds really weird, but I just, as you've said to me before, I don't really get too excited about things. I don't know why. It's just kind of me. I don't really know.
So it's kind of who you are.
Yeah.
But at least the March Madness time gets you going. That makes me excited. I know I'm super excited. Now this will be the third time for IUP.
Mm-hmm.
First game, obviously, we went in and got the win. Second game at their place, obviously took loss. What have you noticed from IUP? What are some things that you know that what we have to do to be able to go down to Richmond and be successful?
I mean, they're shooters, so obviously we need a pressure. They don't like pressure, so we just need to play our defense. We know what we need to do. Don't let them go middle, all the typical stuff. And then on offense, just have a pace about us, about the whole thing.
Yep, and we always talk about it with Coach Jess as well when she gets on the show about just our defense. Has it been a difficult transition from you playing in Australia? Obviously, a very different type of basketball than here in the States. What are some of the things in terms of what were the biggest challenges for you coming from Australia, learning the system, and then be able to execute that on the court?
It's not that big of a difference. I think obviously our defense here is played a little bit different than what I've ever been taught and played at back home. I think one of the main differences is the athleticism by every player in the league. You always have to be ready. So.
And, we talk about Australia. What are your thoughts? You miss home a lot? Do you miss home a lot? Like, what are some things that you really, really miss about being back home?
Yeah, I miss home. I only get to go home once a year, so it's lots of fun. I just miss, the friends and family, all that kind of stuff. I miss the food because American food's not my favourite. So.
And you've always said that from day one.
Yeah.
There's been no changes. And you're kind of like, I think this is really cool about you and with your family. Your family has had the opportunity to visit really cool places, when you go on your holidays and when you're here even and your family comes over. What are some of the cool places that you've been able to visit while you've been over in the States?
I definitely like San Fran and Seattle. They kind of remind me of home a little bit in different aspects. Obviously, kind of getting the opportunity to go to Disney and all those kind of places. You grow up thinking, wow, that's so far away, but actually getting the opportunity to go.
What are your thoughts on New York City?
It's not my favourite. My family loves it, so we go all the time, but it's not my dream to go there.
Yeah. Where would you want to go visit?
I like San Fran and Florida.
So those are the two places that you would want to go back
or
again.
North Carolina.
Have you been anywhere else outside of Australia and the United States, any different other countries?
No.
I think you've been to more places in the States than I have, and I've lived here my whole entire life.
Definitely been to a lot of states.
Pretty cool. What do you want to do, Em? I know you're a sport management major. What are your plans? Obviously, you're a junior, and you have, obviously, the end of this year and then all of next year to think about. Do you want to head back to Australia? What are your plans after Cal?
Right now, I still don't really know. Maybe just take a little bit of time off. I would like to go visit Japan, so do that. I'm doing an internship in the summer in Spain, so maybe get some opportunities from that.
Tell the viewers what that internship is about.
I'm going to be working at a tennis academy in Spain, working on marketing and project development. So, yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. And obviously, you kind of want to stick with your major, sport management, love of sports. I mean, your whole life. You play tennis here for the university and obviously play basketball. Any other sports that you play?
No, not really.
Any other thing that you like to do in terms of, what about?
I like to run.
Yeah, you do love to run. That's always been a big thing of yours. What are some things that you do, Em, and, tell the viewers, you spend a lot of time on sports, obviously with basketball, tennis, you love to train. It's a big part of, kind of what you've been about since you've been here. What are some things that you like to do in your spare time when you're not doing those things?
Just chilling with friends. I like to watch movies and all that kind of stuff.
Now, are we doing American movies or are we doing Australian movies?
Honestly, Australian movies suck. So
not a fan?
No, they're not good. So definitely
you stick with the American movies.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Well, what are your expectations of going down to Richmond? What in the back of your mind have you planned out for our trip? Obviously, leaving tomorrow. What do you have in mind? What is your purpose and intent of going down there?
I mean, we're kind of underdogs in a way, but we know we're coming up against IUP, so we know that we can beat them. I think that we just personally, I think we just need to go out there and take it game by game. We can't kind of think about Monday or Saturday. Kind of just have to focus on Friday and get through that one first, and then focus on the next game.
Absolutely. And that's it for Emily Suckling. We thank her so much for joining us. We'll be back with the second half of the Jess Strom Show with our head coach, Jess Strom.
Dylan, what's wrong, man?
I just don't know how my family back home in Buchanan, West Virginia can watch our stuff up here.
They can follow us on Twitter or they can like us on Facebook.
That's awesome. What about our sports? How can they watch that?
They could watch it live right on our YouTube channel.
Awesome, man. Thanks.
You're welcome.
And welcome back to the second half of the Jess. We were just laughing off camera about this, bobblehead picture over here that you guys can't see. So I apologize for the big laugh, but it was kind of really funny because Coach Jess Strom wanted to do the interview with it on. That's not going to happen today. So we are going to talk to the main lady herself. Hello, Jess. Happy Tuesday. March Madness time. So excited. I know me and you talk about it all the time. Best time of the year for basketball. Still feel that way?
Yeah, I feel like if you are a coach or a player, this is definitely what you work for all year long. So it's the best time of year to watch basketball, to be involved in basketball.
I feel the same way. So talk about the bracket. We have the draw of IUP. Now, everybody knows they're in our conference. Won one, lost one, playing in the third one. We've talked about this with Edinboro, and we were doing the same thing with the PSAC tournament. How difficult is it to play a team 3 times?
I think it's hard, but I think in the same sense it's a little bit easy because you know exactly what they're going to do. They know what we are about. We know what they're about. So it kind of takes the guessing game out of it. Preparation's a little bit easier that way. But it's IUP Cal. So no matter where we play or what's going on, it's always going to be, a rival of ours.
Going into the game, expectations going down to Richmond, leaving tomorrow. Let's talk to Em. Do you take this as a business trip? Is this all basketball, everything basketball? What do you have in your mindset and just the preparation for a trip like this?
Yeah, I mean, obviously that's what we're going there for. But I think at the same time, this is an experience. And this is an experience that a lot of these kids have never had. We have a lot of new people. We have people playing now that haven't really experienced the NCAA tournament much. So, it is a business trip, but you want them to have a little bit of fun at the same time.
Talk about preparation. I know we have been watching a lot of film. We know IUP. They know us. How do you prepare differently? Do you prepare the same way for the NCAA tournament? Do you add things? Do you not add things? Like, what is there to do as a coach? Just to kind of get your idea and tell the viewers what it's like to kind of be in your shoes.
Yeah, I think you just sharpen up things that you've been doing all year long. You wait to see who you play, and then you obviously game plan from there. But for us, we just want to shore up things that we have been doing all year. We haven't perfected our defense yet, so hopefully this is our last chance. So if we don't do it now, we're never going to do it. So I think you just work on the same things. You prepare the same way, a little bit different when you find out who you're playing. But you just go into it and do what you do well.
And let's talk about the bracket again. If we could show the bracket again, kind of the information. The number 1 seed, Virginia Union. Number 2, Glenville State out of West Virginia. Number 3, IUP. Number 4, Edinboro. Number 5, Virginia State. Number 6, Cal U. Number 7, Westchester. And number 8, Bowie State. Any surprises there when it came out on Sunday evening? Anything that kind of took you by surprise, or anything that you thought was different than you expected?
Yeah, I was surprised that Edinboro was 4. They won the PSAC tournament, which is pretty difficult to do. They're playing really well right now. Obviously, they killed us a week ago, but just surprised they're at 4. I think they got a tough draw, honestly. I think Virginia State's pretty good. So I think a first-round game between those two is going to be a tough game to watch. But I think the 8 teams that made it represent our region well, and I think it should be a good tournament.
Absolutely, and there's no other time. I mean, you look at the presence of the PSAC. What do you think that says about the competitive nature of the PSAC and what it says for our conference to have so many teams involved?
Yeah, I think it's awesome for our conference. I think that means that the committee respects our conference. Historically we've been a tough conference, so I think it's great that we have the 3 on our side plus Westchester. And hopefully we'll perform so we can prove that we belong there. But I just think it speaks well of the competition that we play. We play IUP in Edinburgh at least twice every year. So for us, our strength of schedule, I think that just proves we're playing in a good conference.
Yeah, and for the Vulcans in a great way. You think about the top 3 teams in the West. We have all played and beaten each other. So you talk about a competitive nature, and then certain teams that were able to play Westchester, some people didn't. But I think the conference, it speaks a lot about the players, the coaches, and the history of the PSAC in terms of where it goes. So I think it's really cool. I think it's one thing, especially in the recruiting process, that we speak to recruits about is how competitive each night the PSAC is. I mean, there are some teams that were on the bubble as well that had the potential of getting in. So, can you elaborate a little bit more on that and how important it is in recruiting?
Yeah, and Seton Hill was right there too. A couple more wins, I think they would have been close to making it. And obviously you see we lost to Mercyhurst, IUP lost to Mercyhurst, and they didn't even make the PSAC playoff. So for us, I think top to bottom, the conference is awesome. For recruiting too, like you said, you want to compete every single game, every single day. So I think we have that with our conference, especially, playing the West teams twice. It's tough. Every single game is tough.
Obviously, your squad in 2015 won the NCAA Division II championship. I should say our squad, our program. What characteristics do you think a team needs to have to be able to go into the region, win the first, pod, and then move on to the Elite Eight? What are some of the characteristics that you think you absolutely need to have?
I think you just need to be relentless. I think you can't have a give-up attitude. I think it goes into practice. I remember that year, and we were practicing at the national tournament, the Elite Eight, and our kids were going at it. I mean, like it was preseason. So I think you just have to be consistent in your work from the beginning of the season till the end, and especially right now, this isn't a time for your team to take off. This is when you kind of step on the gas.
And it's so hard to explain the feeling of being able to win a national championship. And I think we try to tell each class that comes in, the expectations of the program and what we need to do. What are the 3 basic things that you think that you preach to our teams each year to be able to say, like, hey, when you get to March, and I know we have in our locker room, don't wait till March and ask for a second chance. But what are some of the things that you preach on a daily basis to be able to prepare your team to play for postseason play?
Yeah, I think just consistency. I think you have to be a little bit mentally tough and physically able to overcome injuries and, little nagging things. You can't be babies about things pretty much, but you have to work every day. I think it's hard. Basketball's a long season. So when it's postseason time, you've been through months and months and months of basketball already. And I think the teams that do well now really love the game and have put in the work all along. It's not you make the NCAA tournament and then this week you want to work on things. No, you've been working all year long. So I think it's just preparation, consistency, from day one of preseason to now. I think the teams that are consistent throughout do well in the NCAA tournament.
Okay, so Friday at noon, IUP versus Cal. What do you expect that game to be?
I think it depends on officiating. I think it depends on how they're calling the game, but it's typically physical. They don't like us. We don't like them, just as schools, as universities. We have to drive 5.5 hours to play each other. I think we could play in Pittsburgh and be the same, but it's going to be a Cal IUP game. Hopefully it's competitive. Hopefully, we show up ready to play. I know they're going to show up ready to play. They have some seniors that have been close but haven't really got over that hump. They're coming off a loss that they probably should have won. We're coming off a loss, so I think it's going to be a good game.
Absolutely. Well, that's your show, folks. March Madness edition of the Jess Strom Show, Friday, noon, at Virginia Union. Broadcasted on 91.9 FM. There's going to be live audio, and you can check all the links at www.caluvulcans.com.